Hey friends, it's Sloan Roden, and today we're going to take a little road trip to Greensboro, Alabama, where a classmate of mine from college has restored an almost 180-year-old home. So let's go check it out. So I know this is a historic home. What architectural style would you describe this as? And then what are some of those key elements that are distinguishing aspect of it?
Sure. So this is a prime example of a vernacular Greek Revival style house. You got the monumental box columns. Monumental columns are columns that go up more than one story. It has some Italianate detailing in the brackets, the curvilinear brackets that are on the house. The dental molding up at the top is another Greek Revival feature, and it was very popular in the Deep South. And a lot of these austere, boxy houses, you just add a row of columns and it just turns them into a Greek temple, and people just went wild for it. And it also really works in the Deep South with having the nice wide porch. It shades the wall. The house faces due west, and you get that afternoon light, but it also heats up the front of the house, and without that porch it would really heat up those walls and then blast that heat into the house. And so it's about the climate, it's about the style, and you'll see a lot of people who think Greek Revival is plantation style, and some plantations were built in the Greek Revival taste, but most houses like this are actually townhouses. This is just on 3 acres in the city of Greensboro, and these often correlated with a larger farmhouse at a plantation out in the country.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of people say, oh, that's a plantation house because they see white columns, and that's not the case.
Okay, you could have a Greek Revival that's a plantation house, but not necessarily a plantation house that's a Greek Revival.
Right.
Okay. Like a square is a quadrilateral, but not a quadrilateral with some squares. Okay.
And you'll see that Greek Revival styles incorporated into neoclassicism, just anything with columns, and the Beaux-Arts style that's very popular in Birmingham at the turn of the century. And that was sort of, by the turn of the century, people had traveled the world, and technology was taking off at a rate that if you saw something anywhere in the world, you could sort of make a cast of it and copy it. And so you think of some of those fabulous Birmingham buildings and the Franciscan, didn't they recently redo that? At some bank or something that's a venue hall now.
The Florentine.
And so the Florentine is a prime example of, right at the turn of the century, they're like, oh, we can have this here now, so we'll just cast it and replicate it. And so at the turn of the century, the neoclassical, sort of an architectural buffet line of classical elements from all over put together in houses. But the Greek Revival is a little bit more austere, straight line, symmetrical, and whereas by the neoclassical time, they have a little bit more fun with the plans and other elements of the house.
Gotcha.
Well, if that's enough of an architecture lecture, I'd love to show you around the house.
Awesome, let's go.
Okay, so this is the cross hall of the house, and foyer, reception hall. And this would really been the node of activity. And in the 19th century, if you were to come and visit a house like this, at the very least this would be the one room you saw. So often there was a lot of ostentation and beautiful things set here, and maybe a little sneak peeks into other spaces, but you have, this is where people would put clocks and items that in the 19th century were high value to show off a little bit. And a lot of the time you've got a straight run staircase coming down in these houses, but I really loved that this house had a lateral staircase done in mahogany with turned rails and turned spindles. And this really allows you to have this wide hall here, which really allows people to move back and forth. But
almost even congregate if
absolutely. And when you entertain, people are always flowing through this area, and it really becomes a great aspect of the house for just the flow. And I think a lot of houses today, people just come in through the kitchen and sort of mingle back through there, and they don't even realize the life of the house that's happening up front.
Yes.
So I really enjoy coming through the front and having all these rooms that connect back and forth. And this, from the cross hall, you can get into the dining room, the library, or the parlor, the key areas for entertaining.
Okay, awesome. Well, where to next?
Oh, well, I'll take you through into the library. The previous owners had used this as a downstairs bedroom. I've heard people had used this as a gentleman's parlor, several different features, but I needed a library. And one of the things I love about historic houses is often the plans are just sort of boxes lined up, and so you can use it for whatever you want. And this could make a fabulous downstairs bedroom. It makes a wonderful study and library for me. I put all my books together in one place, and I love having access to all these things. We live in a world where we think we can get everything online, but there's so many wonderful wonderful resources. And with my research and working with preservation, it's wonderful to sit here and grab these things. This is a old partner's desk from an English house, and I got it because I do one side, I sit and read and do the books and take my notes, and I'll get my computer out and sit on the other side and sort of shift gears and put my slides together for a lecture, do that sort of thing. So I kind of mentally divide things back and forth. And with the glass top in it, makes a great bar for big parties.
Oh, yes! The one reason why you'd come to the library during a party.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to guess that this is the formal dining room.
Right. So we got our dining room here. Historic houses, often the kitchen is a little bit more separate and not a key element of the house. And you think about
more function than
more function than anything else. And I think it's amazing to think that early on, kitchens were totally separate buildings, and it was not any aspect of your house. And now some people are building,
houses
kitchens
around a kitchen
that just happen to have some bedrooms in it.
Yes. Yeah.
But I really enjoy.
I would do that.
I really enjoy having the kitchen as a workspace to prepare things, and then bring it out into a space to dine in. And it really makes you sit and reflect on the food a little bit more, and reflect on the company that you've got. And it goes into versatility. Depending on your generation, a lot of people have started to think that this sort of thing is too much, or it's fancy, or people are trying to impress each other. And really it's about sharing material culture. It's not being materialistic, I think. It's about sharing these things. And when you use the stuff, you tell stories more, and you're really reflecting on it. And you just get into the deeper level of thought and conversation around the dinner table. And that's what I really love here.
You're already put at a sense of ease and familiarity, and then I could see that as in you're really setting the tone for the party.
Exactly. And I think people are, if they're ever worried or stressed about I don't know what fork or anything to use, just grab one. It's not about no one is there to judge you about any of this aspect.
We're not on the
of
Titanic.
Things. Exactly. It's about getting together and having fun and whatnot. And at no point in the history of dining here or at any of my friends' houses has anyone said, "Oh, that's not the right spoon, dear." That's just not going to happen.
Or later they left and she's like, "She used the wrong fork."
Yeah, exactly. I threw a party once and forgot to put napkins. I'd set the table with all the stuff. And it didn't have napkins, and so I kind of was like, well, let's see, I'm going to pretend that this was on purpose, and I went, and the napkins were folded in the back, I just hadn't brought them out, and so I put them all in a tray, and acted like part of the presentation was to bring everyone their napkins. You just play it off, don't worry about anything, just have fun with it.
Fresh towel now.
Exactly. Auburn Rural Studio is the architecture program down here, and I hosted dinner for them, and people were sort of like, which glass do I use? Like, well, whichever one you want. I mean, this is a champagne glass, this is this, but don't worry about it.
Okay, so what room are we in now, and then how would it traditionally be used, and maybe how do you use it?
Sure. So this is the formal parlor. This would be where your ostentatious furniture was, and this room gets great natural light really throughout the day, but wonderful light in the afternoon. Portraits and things like that were popular in the 19th century to show off in a place like this. Today, in new construction, sometimes the formal parlor is relegated for a few things you inherited that you don't want to sit on and use all that much. But I just really love using everything that I have, and so this is definitely a key aspect of the house. People use it, enjoy it, and it's sometimes nice to have dinner in the dining room, have desserts in another room, and maybe cocktails in the parlor. Just move around, have your progressive dinner in your own home, and just because the house is asking to be entertained in, so you kind of give it what it wants.
Oh, I love that. Okay, then what is through here?
So through here is a sunroom, a playroom, whatever you want it to be. It's been my friends jokingly call it the movie set because I'm constantly changing and rearranging this room, and I think that's something people should be more aware of. You can change things. These houses, when they were built, they had a life, and then another family moved in. There's been generations of effect going on here, and so I think it's important for people to realize you can have your impact on a historic house. You can paint it, you can do all sorts of different things, and so this room is a lot of fun. Recently I hosted a Russian dinner party as a library fundraiser for our Hale County Library, and we did Russian literature as the theme. So this room has got all this malachite things in it so that it would look like the malachite room from the Winter Palace, which is fun. And I think people enjoy when you sort of go all out for things like that, and I certainly enjoyed it. I can put the big table in here with all the leaves and seat 20 people, and then when I do that, the dining room can be where food is served, and then everyone's eating in another space. Because often, if you're truly using that many people at the table, where are you actually going to put the food to,
Very true, very
to serve
true.
things? This is the one wood-burning fireplace left in the house. All the other ones were turned into coal-burning fireplaces, and then later a retrofit for gas. And so I just love building a fire here.
Yes.
And people gather around, and there's something very early, human behavior. The first thing we did when we were dry in the cave and weren't worried about the saber-toothed tiger was start to decorate our caves and build a fire and tell stories around it. So we're still doing it today, and I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to draw people in together. And just the other day, several people came by, sort of an impromptu gathering, and you just grab chairs from wherever and pull up or come to the side here, whatever you want to do. It's not so static.
Okay, so you have lived here how long now?
Just about 3 years now, and just have loved it.
And how did you find the home? Were you living in Tuscaloosa?
I was living in Tuscaloosa. I just moved back from New Orleans to Tuscaloosa to take a job at the Jemison Mansion, a historic house museum there, and there was a estate sale that I saw in Greensboro. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is my dream home. Not that I'll ever have anything like this, but this is just my dream home. So that was in 2011. The house was still for sale in 2015. And I thought, I really like seeing that house. And just from a design standpoint, I'd love to go see it again. So I called the realtor and I said, I do not want to waste your time. Please understand, I just love historic architecture. I want to see some of the houses in Greensboro. And the realtor said, you're not going to waste my time. I enjoy showing the houses. Come on down. Here, here's when I'm free. So I came down, looked at several different houses, and it was just such a neat snapshot of what was going on here. The realtor was really friendly and telling me about the community and different social aspects.
Well, and y'all can, and even if and I would take this as in like maybe it wouldn't result in a sale that day, but there's so much that y'all can learn from each other.
Exactly. So we ended up just having this wonderful conversation and a wonderful day exploring Greensboro. And we're at the last house, and I say, I'd like to see that Tuscaloosa Street house again. Say, well, what would it be like living here? And I'd think about that on the drive down and the drive back. And living in Tuscaloosa, it had gotten to a point.
Could I make this drive every day?
Was I going to do this drive every day? And one of the things that sealed the deal, I was thinking about the house nonstop. And one day I left work, and it took me over 30 minutes to get home from the traffic, which I know a lot of people, that's not that bad of a commute. But suddenly
in Tuscaloosa, you don't live in a place like Tuscaloosa to commute for 30 minutes.
That kind of traffic, and it was bumper to bumper, frustrating traffic. And I thought, well, for 10 more minutes, I could be down a country road in this, idyllic paradise in my mind. And so it was one of the things that helped sell me on it. And so I came down, and I thought, I want this house. I want to make it happen. I'm ready to not just teach and talk about preservation. I want to actually have my own preservation project.
And
I want to be part of that. And so I'm going to take this on and put my money where my mouth is. And so got the house, and I was sort of like jumping off the high dive. You don't know what's going to happen, but I've loved it. I've just loved it ever since.
And I would feel that makes it what you teach every day to your students that much more special to them. Because,
absolutely.
You're not just talking theory, you have lived it and you're doing it, and you can talk about, okay, well, this is what happened to me this weekend.
Right. And when people say, well, why would people do this in a house? And I'd say, well, that's not how people would arrange furniture, because this is going on, or this is happening, or without natural light, or with only natural lighting and candlelight, you would do more things around windows, and things would be centered around that, versus a world always designed around artificial lighting being there, a world always designed around central heating and air, that sort of thing, where these houses are designed for open ventilation and flow and all that sort of thing, and which is a real treat to explore that today.
I've never thought about, when I'm looking at older homes and how going in, places like the Biltmore that are preserved and how they're setting up the room and how it's arranged. I've never thought to look of where the natural light, so then what would you be doing in that area? So no wonder you would have different seating areas.
Right, and a morning room and a tea room and all these different things, because you get the morning light or the afternoon light, or some places would be just more pleasant at different times.
My mind just exploded.
And I've even found I'll move bedrooms. I mean, I'll just sleep in different rooms in the house because sometimes different times of year they're more pleasant, and which is sort of a crazy thing. And I live here, so people say, "Which one's your bedroom?" It's like, well, they're all mine.
Like who lives here? You're like, well, I do
because I can do what I want. But I think that it's a really fun thing as far as the design challenge. A lot of new houses are designed. This is where the sofa goes. This is where the TV goes.
Yes.
There's no question. I mean, choose your own TV and sofa, but other than that, that's going to be pretty static.
Yes.
But I love that historic houses have all these quirks and different things that say, well, this week I'm going to arrange it like this, but maybe for a party I'm going to pull this out, or it's going to be very much more flexible. And so you're going to use different aspects of the house at different times, which is just a really fun way, and it just makes things new all the time.